You are facilitating, please.
Okay. Well, then, since we have a quorum, I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is 10:01.
Who is, oh, you're going to go through roll call?
Yeah, we'll go through that in a moment. We're just closing the door.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, maybe we can go around the table and.
Do the pledge first?
I see, roll call is number 3. Yeah, and we have a flag.
I know, I dragged it out of
Thank you.
hiding.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of
of the United States of America,
to the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
which
stands,
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and
justice for all.
Okay. Now we'll do the roll call.
Now,
Thank you. All right, this is Jennifer Nissenall.
Bob Gebert.
Danny Clemens.
Randy Piagua.
Tom Riddle.
Randy Violence.
Jen Lewis.
And on the phone, we have Dean.
Justine Groves.
Okay. Georgia?
Good morning, I'm here. And can you ask the committee to vote for Dean Groves to participate since you will be voting today?
I'm sorry, say
Somebody
that
has to
one.
say because of extraordinary circumstances.
Oh, okay, I didn't
Dean
hear
is not
that.
in meeting, and you can vote to allow him to participate.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Let's go through the roll call maybe, and then we'll do that. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Just so we don't forget where we, well, so I won't forget where we are. I think next one is Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning. And then there's someone who, I don't
That's
see.
just me.
Laura.
Oh, that's you? Okay. Anybody else on? Okay, that is the roll call. And then since Dean is not with us due to extraordinary circumstances, I need a motion to allow him to vote in today's meeting.
I make a motion.
And
To
a
what?
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes. Is there any public comment today? Okay.
I did not fill out a slip, but I'm curious as to when the group is going to go over their budget for next year. If they've given any consideration to that.
It is on our agenda for today.
It is.
It is.
I looked at that and I didn't see it. It's okay.
In D, continued discussion priority projects that includes
Thank you.
2024. You're welcome. Anything else? All right. Next is approval of the minutes. And this is from our meeting on March 27th. It's included in the packet. Any comments about the minutes?
I just have one comment. In the attendees list, we didn't include Ed Hedges' last name. We should add his name, Hedges, Hedges.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that Ed question mark.
Yep. Any other comments? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes with that one addition without reading the whole thing to the group?
I make a motion to accept the minutes with the amendment. That's
Okay.
Danny.
A second.
Okay.
This is Dean, a second.
Thank you, Dean. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, that will be passed. Now, how do we've never had a change to our minutes. So procedurally, how does that get done before it gets submitted officially?
I would take them back to Georgia. They would make the corrections and then we would bring them back for the next meeting.
Okay,
And I actually have the corrected version on that printed copy.
Okay. Awesome. So the copy she
Okay.
gave me is corrected then.
So just put his name in there.
Yep,
okay. And then we don't have to bring it back since we said we would approve with amendment?
correct.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay, next thing on the agenda is the financial report. Dean, do you have anything to share with us?
No, not actually. There was a kind of a draft that was circulated roughly a month ago that had some categories of budget allocation from the current year that we had really no input to. And so that's all that I've seen, and I think that's what we are kind of operating under. I don't honestly know where we stand financially against those budget items, but I'm somewhat concerned that if we talk about some items under number 8, we might be hitting up against the limits on some of these particular categories. So nothing specific to talk about. I think it's something we're going to have to work through, but just be aware that the budget numbers as allocated by the PPAC board and by CDD as something that we're being provided for guidance for developing our budget for next year.
And at the
Okay.
present time, Jen is managing the safety and security budget.
Yep, I've got some numbers here and I'll send you what I have. Bill Sirico has done a nice job on doing a 4-year projection, so we can see a 4-year trend. And then my accounting department has given me everything December, January, and February financials of what the expenditures are so far. And so then I've come up with another line for 2024 proposed budget. So I'll share that. I just have some numbers I have to tweak, and then I'll send those out to the committee.
And those, Jen, will be draft, right? They
That,
won't be.
absolutely, draft. I need you guys to look and see what we, I'm keeping what we have for safety and security at 69.8. But I don't know. I mean, we need to figure out what projects we have moving forward for next year.
I'd like,
And from a budgetary point of view, last year, PPAC shifted the landscaping budget over to the district for all the financials. And the intent was that safety and security would shift to this year.
yeah.
Is that consistent with what you remember, Randy?
I don't recall we having any discussions about that. I haven't seen a spreadsheet on an O&M agreement or on a regular budget yet
The
this
O&M
year.
won't have anything on it money-wise. Well, I guess it's not in the O&M, I'm not sure where it is, but there is a budget. But last year, maybe I can refresh your memory, when we were talking about whether we had, at that time, it was the Castle continuing to do the budgets or to move to the district system. And the good news of the district going in the system is we had real time. Laura would know on the day of the meeting exactly where she was expense-wise. The amount of budget didn't change for 22, 23. It's still, I don't know, $271,000 plus the security contract, which is $397. But the subset items, at the present time, we were relying on Castle to tell us where we were, like we are today, in any particular category, like gatehouse maintenance, gatehouse supplies, streetlight repair, carpet repair, that kind of stuff. But they tried to make it simplistic last year that we would roll over. We did landscaping the first year, and this will be a topic for feedback, I guess, to discuss again, particularly if you don't remember it. So, because at the end of the day, if the numbers are correct in my memory, we had 3 years ago, Castle was managing 1.4 million of the budget. And at the present time, it's less than 40,000. And when safety rolls over at the October 1st date, it'll drop significantly again.
So, but that means a whole new O&M agreement and all parties to agree if that's to take place?
That's a can of worms, but yes.
Okay,
We have to come to an agreement.
right.
On the O&M. But having said that, we don't have to come to an agreement because the O&M agreement lives at the discretion of the district.
Okay.
So, we're not all voting on it, although we want to be cooperative and collaborative. But the bottom line is that the O&M is an instrument by which the district allowed the PPCA to manage some of the assets. And at one time, it was safety and security and landscape. And we are morphing away from that. And this has absolutely nothing to do with the discussion that PPAC is ongoing right now, whether to do the whole thing, can't get move it over here. That may or may not happen too. But from a how do we do things and go forward, pro forma. And Laura, is Laura not on here?
Laura's not on.
Okay. Laura will be consistent with that too, because we gave her direction to move it. But okay.
The other thing about the budget I just might mention is that Jennifer and I met a few days after our last meeting and went over the list of proposed projects and all the updates that we had made in the meeting. And she incorporated all those projects into her list. And then we decided that because it doesn't make sense to have two lists with the same items because you can never keep them in sync, that we would just have one master list for all of Pelican, and it would include safety and security. We would not have a separate list. So all of that stuff is in with what Jennifer is going to be sending out.
So the capital enforcement worksheet that we just went over, that's what Jennifer's talking about. So we sat down and went over some of the figures, as well as with Mark Eversman, just for some of the monuments, especially for landscaping. But anything that we've got in here, that was what was shared at the last PPAC meeting.
Just pass that around, and that's the budget of this year, of 22-23, with the individual categories, such as gatehouse utilities, maintenance, sidewalk, road repair, all those are the categories. And that's exactly what we did last year.
Okay.
I think you've got that, I think I gave that to you there. Should be pretty close. It's not a big takeaway from this one.
Yeah, I've never gotten any of those. I've only gotten this one
This
from
is
Laura.
And they're all the same. All
Okay.
the numbers are consistent.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on financials? Okay. The next item is review of Wiser post orders. And we had our workshop last week where we went over pretty much the entire document, made a lot of decisions. An updated version of that document was distributed. I had it before I even got home. So Georgia, her usual uber efficient self. One thing that I did agree to do is that I was going to rewrite the gate access procedures, because we all decided that it ran on a little long. It was kind of redundant. It didn't flow well. I did that and I sent it out to the team over the weekend. Well, I sent it to Georgia. She sent it out this morning. And so if you would take a look at this, give me any feedback you might have. If you have comments, please send it through Georgia and Laura via the customer care box, as we discussed in the last meeting. And then what we'll do is, if there are any changes and I get them, I'll be happy to update the document, and I'll send out an updated document before the May meeting. But we'll have it on the agenda in the May meeting to finalize this portion of it. And if you'll bring any other changes that you might have to the overall post orders, we can then try to finalize it during that meeting and send it on for review.
And I had to leave the meeting early. Did we decide we were going to leave the Wiser section alone because that was their
Yes.
own? Okay,
Yes,
so
that was-
whatever their
Yeah.
procedures are for Wiser, we were just going to be
We're
doing
just
what
going
we
to worry
wanted for
about,
Gateway.
yeah, just
That makes
what affects
sense.
the contract,
Okay.
what matches up with the contract.
All right.
Yeah, this is Danny. Officially, we should not be making any changes to a contractor's
Right,
personal information for their guards. That's not our job.
okay.
Those are their instructions for their people. Only how it affects their operation here in Pelican Preserve.
And we
This
also
is-
decided to, oh, I'm sorry, Dean.
No, go ahead.
This is Jennifer. We also decided that what we would do is have like two sections. One would be the Wiser section for all of their personnel type information, and the second part of it would be for the actual Pelican Preserve specific information.
Perfect, okay.
So right now it's all kind of merged together. We're going
Yeah.
to separate it out just to make it simpler.
Sure, that makes sense.
Sorry, Dean, go ahead.
What-
Oh,
Yeah, I was going
Okay,
to, I didn't participate in that. But is there an attempt to differentiate between those areas that impact the PPCA versus the areas in the post orders that impact GSCD gate?
Yes and no. The yes is they will be separate, but we were focusing on the GSCDD contract. And then you can give status if you'd like on what the PPAC, what the PPCA is doing along with KW.
Right now, we're doing nothing.
I thought you had a proposal out.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
We've talked about it,
Yeah.
whether we want to have Wiser as a supplemental contract at the town center. But we want to probably have cameras installed at the same time. You know, we want to do the whole security
okay, I thought
package.
you were further along.
So Adam's
Okay.
working with getting proposals for the camera systems. But then the other thing is, Bill and I talked about adding on a supplemental contract with Wiser, but we haven't gotten to the point of talking about that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
thought
no,
it had
no.
already
And
gone
that
out.
might
Okay.
monitor the town center and the.
Yeah, and
the
any
safety
of the
uh,
extra
storage
things.
lot.
Yes, yeah. And if we want homeowners to be, you know, notified if their garage doors are open or some of those things, those extra things.
Okay.
Were you gonna say something or?
No, I
Yeah,
think.
I was,
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. We keep talking on, or I keep talking on top of you, Dean. Go ahead. Sorry.
just real quick, we were also going to, once we had the narrative completed on the Pelican Preserve specific section, what are we going to call it? Part 2, Chapter 2, something
Yeah.
like that. We're going to also have the summary document at the front of this report for the post office for quick reference.
Yes, but I think
Okay,
we
okay.
decided that we were gonna wait till we
Wait.
had a solid draft. Yeah.
Right, correct, okay. And then the other thing, I opened up the attachment this morning to see the file, and I did not see anything in track changes. I don't know if I did something incorrect, but this particular file didn't show me all of the track changes.
That, gate access procedures.
The
That's all?
attachment to this file, to this agenda item.
Oh, that agenda item. I don't know.
Yeah, Georgia and I were talking about that, how even last meeting we couldn't track the changes. So I think we have to talk with the provider because it's changing everything to a PDF and we can't see the revisions. So.
Okay,
You know, I had the same issue. I couldn't see any of the track, other than some comments that were made there.
right,
If I couldn't do anything with it.
okay. Do you have an idea of how long that might take to get out a version that people could actually update? Or
I'm
is
sure
that-
she can send it out right now or after the meeting, just whatever revision we have. Georgia, what?
Everyone should have received the Word document after your meeting last week.
Yeah, I thought the one you sent out was Word.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Let me,
I didn't look at, I didn't try to change the
Okay.
one that came in with the agenda packet, so I wasn't.
Yeah, so make changes to the one that was sent
Sent out.
by email, not the one that was attached to the
Okay.
agenda.
Does that help, Dean?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the post orders? Okay. Next is the Benito Vicenza traffic calming measures. Now, I'm not sure who's got the lead on this because
I'll start.
on it. Okay.
So you should recall over the last several years, we've had some attempts to calm traffic on Veneto to enhance the safety for people trying to exit from Vicenza. The sight distance for exiting vehicles is constrained by the horizontal curve on Veneto. And by shrubbery that's planted along the property line, the right-of-way line, and the fact that not too many people understand what 15 miles per hour means in Pelican Preserve. So as they come towards the town center from Pelican Preserve Boulevard, they oftentimes have a tendency to travel at speeds that are closer to 20, 25 miles an hour. The roadway was not designed for that speed. And as a result, it's a little treacherous for some people to venture out of Vicenza to exit onto Veneto. So the rumble strips were installed several years ago. Had a tendency to slow traffic down initially. I think even the results of some of the speed monitoring data showed that the average speed for most vehicles was in the 15 to 20 mile per hour range, though we did have some people that traveled a bit faster. We also tried to tweak the installation a bit to try to improve either getting people to slow down or provide an opportunity for golf carts to avoid having to go over the strips for potential damages to the suspensions. We also observe some golf cart operators veering across the double yellow center line to avoid the strips and potentially having head-on collisions with opposing traffic. And then the noise factor from the rumble strips was affecting especially the first home on Vicenza. So we've been trying to come up with a resolution, something that might work better. And we were authorized to engage Florida Transportation Engineering to evaluate, identify, and suggest several feasible and prudent traffic calming measures that might be able to be permitted by the city of Fort Myers. They came up with three concepts. One of them is an A and a B, but basically three concepts. And the first concept was the use of speed humps on Veneto Drive. The speed humps are concrete. They would have ramps approaching the kind of level area on the speed humps. That level area was 4 inches high, so the ramp would go from roadway grade up 4 inches, have about a 10-foot wide level area, and then 10 feet back down to grade. And that was to try to slow vehicles down as they're coming along Veneto Drive. In this case, with 3 locations, 2 of them right at the intersection with Vicenza, and 1 further back by the median island on Veneto. The cost of the speed humps was indicated in the memo. I don't see that at this point, but it was $42,000 estimated cost. $42,000 for the speed humps. They would have preferred to have another speed hump on the town center side, but because of the property line they stopped short of the property line. They didn't propose the additional hump on PPCA roadway. So that was $42,000. The second one is a raised intersection at Veneto and Vicenza, and they have 2 options. One of them is made out of asphalt, so that's the roadway pavement materials, and it has a ramp up from the street grade on 3 approaches, and you can see that in this image here. So it's kind of a landing area, the full length of the throat of Vicenza Drive, and it's sort of an enlarged speed hump, if you will. So all motorists would ramp up, drive across the raised intersection, and then ramp down on the other side. The cost of that was $31,000. And then a more elaborate version, a more aesthetic version, was to, instead of using just asphalt, to either do the asphalt called stamped asphalt, which would be a colored pavement, or brick pavers. And The stamped asphalt was about almost $83,000, and the brick pavers about $103,000. So that was the second option that they came up with. And then the third option is something that would actually narrow the travel lanes as motorists pass through this intersection area to slow traffic down. Again, if the roads are wide, and 12 feet on each lane is not very wide, but people are traveling it fairly quickly nevertheless. So the concept was to reduce the lane width from 12 feet to 10 feet as they're approaching the intersection with Vicenza. And they would do that with concrete traffic separators that were 4 feet wide. So 2 feet on either side of the center line. And you can see those in the image. And the cost of this was about $10,000. You can see these two separators. They're very small median islands, if you will, made out of concrete, and they have a delineator at the nose of the island that would be flexible, probably yellow. The circular black right there, that round right there is one, and on the other nose is one. So that would just be another indication that slow down, folks. There's this area is narrower intentionally, and we expect that all traffic, whether they be automobiles, trucks, golf carts, or bicycles, are traveling this area at a slower speed to try to enforce again the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. This has not been presented to the community, the neighborhood, the community association, or anyone at the city. This is internal at this point for discussion and for us to try to figure out the next steps. If it was something that we wanted to move forward with, I would urge a meeting with the Vicenza Neighborhood Association, with the Community Association, with us, CDD, and with KW.
Dean, are you certain that on these drawings, they do not go into the association? Because that road, I had an overhead of that road, and it looked to me like it was almost exactly straight across from the border of Vicenza.
I'm not certain, Randy. I'm not certain, but I am confident that they did have the information on the property line where the line is, and they were intentionally staying out of that property area. So, if it needs to shift a little bit towards, if the one that's on the town center side needs to shift a little closer towards the intersection, that I'm sure that could be accomplished, but I'm not certain that it doesn't encroach now. Existing. Oh, wait a minute. I think you're right. You see that the leader that says existing parcel line down at the bottom right there, existing parcel line, and then it points up to that dashed line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it appears to me that it's on PPCA property.
Yeah, and
would have to move that.
Okay, because that's the number one consideration. The district cannot pay for anything that is not district property or district assets.
Right, got it.
They think it's a way to get coffee. Yeah. They think it's a way to get coffee.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because that's a major point, and I don't know whether you had any discussion with Bill Sirico when he joined you at that meeting as to whether the community association would participate in any of the costs of this. Do you
No,
recall?
we didn't have any discussions like that.
Okay.
It seemed premature and it was more like, well, let's see what they come up with first. So before we talk about anything else. So it could be the next discussion even before a presentation with the neighbors. But I would have to raise the issue back to Florida Transportation about shifting this out of the PPCA property.
Yeah, it looks like if it's, just doesn't look like there'd be room for it on that westbound.
Right.
stop.
No, I understand. I hear what you're saying. I'm with you.
This is Danny, if I may. Has there been any consideration or discussion of just placing stop signs?
Yes, stop signs we've been talking about stop signs, and stop signs would not be approvable by the city of Fort Myers for this location. The traffic volumes are too different on these on the approach lanes. The manual on uniform traffic control devices does not permit always stops for speed control. They do it for traffic control to give traffic the option, a stop, a gap, so that others can proceed, but not for speed control. They want you to use traffic calming measures.
Oh, but this is not city property, this is private property, correct?
No, this is Gateway District property
Then
that
that
we're
was-
talking about. We've had direct communications with the transportation engineer at the city of Fort Myers, and it's not permittable.
Okay,
Yeah, and it is, yeah, and the city does have jurisdiction over what gets installed on public roadways such as this.
okay, because I was on the president's council, I had recommended speed humps probably about 8 years ago. And it was turned down by the board, and I'm glad to see it reintroduced because that will slow that traffic down a lot.
Yep.
It works in many other communities as well as other major roadways. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably the best option. It'll keep the golf carts and the vehicles from driving on the grass, also causing extensive damage or going the wrong way.
Mhm.
How many proposals are in this study?
There are three options here, and one of them has two sub options.
Okay, and have we determined, the group determined, which is the most desirable?
This is
It's
Don.
the first time.
I have a problem with the narrowing. I think that's a bad decision to make when you narrow a highway, because you may have a golf cart and a car or bicycle come together side by side, and then all of a sudden you've got a narrowing effect. Who's going to give right of way? So that's going to be an issue. The humps are accepted by Fort Myers because they have them on Fort Myers city streets. They're existing on many of their streets. And I think that'd be very acceptable. Golf carts and bicycles can go over those as long as the slope is adequate without any problems.
Again, it comes down to how much do we want to invest?
Dean, what, if we were to make some considerations on this option one, the speed humps?
Yeah.
Is there any reason why we couldn't just have one hump just immediately in front of Vincenza Drive westbound?
I agree with that.
I mean, that
seems
is
to be most desirable.
that seems to be the most, the area that visibility is limited the most. Because if you're sitting at that stop sign, wanting to turn out onto Veneto, you got at least a half a mile or more visibility westbound, coming from the town center. I don't see why people couldn't time their exit from Vincenza. But if they had a speed hump there, it would slow people down going westbound.
Yeah, I
And if
think
it's across the
I think
street.
you're right, Randy. I think it's a good suggestion. We probably, as a layperson who lives here and who experiences this, one would do it. right where you suggested, the one that's in the middle here. And if we felt strongly that we still needed to slow down the traffic coming from Pelican Preserve Boulevard, then maybe the second one that's out by the island, the median, but certainly the one that's on the town center side, I think we could eliminate for the very reason you say, the straightaway from town center to
Clear line.
Vicenza, it gives you great visibility.
And this is Danny, but we would not eliminate the existing rumble strips, correct?
No,
Well,
they
I
would
think we
go
would.
away.
I think we would.
No.
Yeah.
Going the other way, coming from the town
They
center.
would go away.
Why? Why do we not
Because
leave them there?
we have gotten nothing but complaints about those for 2 years.
And
And that's the
they're
whole
avoiding
reason
them.
we
And
continue to
people
try
go
to.
around it.
And they're wearing the
Yeah.
grass out. 'cause
They
they're
drive on the
wearing-
grass, they drive around into the
the
other
middle.
lane to avoid them. So
Absolutely.
they're,
But people would probably slow down because they would know that
Well,
this
the
is
hump
coming.
is here.
The hump is coming, so they're
And the
gonna
hump
slow
goes
down,
from
because if it's
curb
gonna
to
go
curb.
from curb to curb,
if
right?
it goes from gutter
Yes.
to gutter, then
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah,
That looks
people
like
would
the
slow
best
down
thing.
because they'd be like, oh, we've got that coming up, and
And if it's just a 2 or 3 inch rise, it's gonna cause people to slow down, but it's not gonna be like the irritating speed humps that you see in parking ramps and things of that nature.
Yes, you're correct. Is this one, this would be 4 inches high in the middle.
Okay.
For a 15 to 20 mile per hour speed, the design criteria shows a 4-inch height. It goes from 0 to 4 inches, carries across the middle of the speed hump level, and then 4 inches down to 0 again, the ramp.
That's Don, I think that's the best solution, as long as it goes from curb to curb.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's, we've spent a lot of money so far on those rumble strips, a lot of money. And, this was.
And they're not
this is a
effective.
problem.
so aesthetically, if we did one and we did something like, so if you go over to Plantation Country Club or Golf Course over there, they have the same thing going all the way across. It's a slight increase, it's straight on the top and then it goes down, but they have it either stamped, I think it's like stamped concrete, and it looks, aesthetically, it looks very nice. I know you said something about concrete. Would we match it to the blacktop? Or,
Well, I wonder if
Is
we
it-
could put pavers. That would make it look even better.
well, I know, but it would be costly, I would think, unless you, I mean, I don't know if stamped
know.
concrete versus
Yeah,
pavers is
country
more
clubs,
expensive, but
It is. Well, if you went to that other option that had the raised intersection, we had a stamped asphalt and a paver price. So you can see there was a pretty substantial difference in the cost going from stamped asphalt to pavers. There would be, I think, a very slight increase if we had stamped concrete. The price of the the price for $42,000 for 3 concrete speed humps. Even if you average those out at do the math, what's that, $13,000?
For one,
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
for one, maybe call it, $15,000 to $18,000 for one, and have it be stamped concrete. It's not going to be a substantial additional cost to have
Okay.
it be stamped.
Another option on that, you could do the stamped concrete or pavers, like a double row upon entering the raised portion. So the center portion would be blacktop as a regular roadway. You'd have 2 that would identify where this hump starts
Yep.
and ends, if you understand what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
And
Outline,
it'd be a lot cheaper.
outline.
Mhm.
Well, if you can make a decision that you can only put the one, that it's gonna be curb to curb, then get the cost for whatever else you wanna do to make it more aesthetically pleasing.
I think by doing the one, then that eliminates having to get PPCA involved too, because
Yeah.
now you're not
Yeah.
on the town
Exactly.
center
Stay on the
side.
other side.
You guys can just make the decision and go with it.
Stay on the east side. North side.
Yeah, on the east side of Benito.
So if we can look at that and try to make it as cost effective as possible, I think that could get some support. Remember, we've got 5 stakeholders that have to be satisfied with this. And that neighborhood is number 1, because we can't do anything until we get something that they will give us written approval, like 20 of the 30 homeowners.
So is it worth presenting this?
But budget wise, in my view, that, the option 3 are just a non-starter.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but narrowing. Yeah,
Well, I don't
It's
like
bad
that idea
enough.
because I'm afraid people will
Yeah.
run
It's
into
just
it.
what he said. I don't-
But $102,000,
Yeah.
I can't
Right.
get behind that.
Yeah.
I think the best option is a single speed hump, and we work with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And just signage, enough signage of road markings so people are aware of it up ahead. And Kurt,
Okay, I can broach this with FTE to get them to come up with a cost for a single speed hump, and then I'll present it back to this group, and then we can go to the 5 stakeholders.
Yep. That's good. Well, this
I
is
think
the
that
most-
sounds like, I think that
Yeah.
sounds like
I
a
think-
good way to proceed.
yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Okay,
Just
thank you,
about-
folks.
positive sort of
Yeah.
progress, I think,
Yeah,
that we've made in a long
and
time on this
it'll
issue.
slow things down, it'll look nice.
Yes.
When I went over to Plantation, I thought they looked beautiful. And at the same time, it slows you down too.
Right, so you don't have that thump, 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 thump,
Mhm.
thump, thump.
Well, the
Yep.
thump, 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 and the thump, thump, thump is there for a purpose, it's to slow people down.
Well, I understand,
Those
but-
people in the golf carts that travel 25 miles an hour in a 15-mile-an-hour roadway, they're gonna cause damage to their cars intentionally.
Yeah,
The equipment is there to stop the speed, not to satisfy those that don't
I
want to
understand,
damage
but
their
that's-
golf. But it's there
an
for a purpose.
irritant, and that's part of the,
yeah,
Well, the homeowners that live right on that corner, it's Nancy Rice and I forget her husband's name. They're bothered by the noise of it too.
Yeah.
She says, we can't use our guest room anymore because
Right.
it makes this bum, 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 bum,
Yeah,
bum.
Yeah, no, I get it, I'm talking about the one on the other side.
Yeah.
Reducing that one, but if we can't leave it, it would slow the traffic down a little bit more. But we have to think of why we're doing this, rather than satisfying groups or individuals
Right.
that don't want to adhere to the limits of safety and security of the community. But I'm all for the single speed hump to make it work. But I'm also against removing the one going in the opposite direction,
thank you.
because it's going to happen. We're trying to resolve the issue of the residents coming out of Vincenza. Even though they see the cars coming, individuals do not yield properly. So it's not going to stop the speeders from going back out towards Pelican Reserve Boulevard, because they're not there anymore. So the Veneto people, the Vincenza people still have to wait, and they can wait, they're not going anywhere.
That's right, Danny. There are gaps in the traffic stream, and they can see the gaps. When this whole issue started several years ago, Lennar had signs, sales center signs,
I remember that.
installed along the grass strip between the sidewalk and the gutter line, going towards, going inbound. And as you're coming out of Vicenza, those signs blocked the view of oncoming traffic. So since the signs have been removed, the visibility has improved dramatically for traffic exiting town center. Now, yeah, sometimes they come pretty quick, and whether it's a golf cart or an automobile, and sometimes it's faster when an event lets out, like bingo or something lets out. Everybody's trying to get home in time for the 5 o'clock news or something. But you still can see most of the time. You can see pretty clearly and wait for the gap to exit out of Vicenza. So I don't think removing the rumble strips is going to have a material effect on speed increasing, or if we kept them there, continuing to decrease. But I do think that removing the rumble strips will improve the quality of life, particularly for the folks that live in that first home on the corner of Vicenza.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so let's move on from that. I think we have a pretty good proposal moving forward. Pavement markings refresh proposals, follow-up. I think, Jenna, you taking the lead on this one?
Well, Dean and I have both been working
Okay.
on, I got the proposals for him and sent them off to him and Keith Riddle, and then they took a look at them. We did have to have Atlantic Southern send a revised one because we wanted to find out how much it would cost to remove the thermoplastic.
Correct.
So that is a revised one.
So thank you, Jen. So the three proposals that are attached range in price from $32,500 to $39,171 for paint. I'm sorry, there's a $38,043 to $39,171 for paint. And if we wanted to use thermoplastic and remove the existing thermoplastic first, then only Atlantic gave us a price for thermoplastic, and their $38,000 paint proposal increased to $95,000 for thermoplastic. I like the thermoplastic because of its durability. It lasts a lot longer than paint. You can paint 3 times before you spend as much money as the thermoplastic costs. But
Could you tell us approximately 3 times, are you talking 10 years?
yeah, it's about that.
Okay. And
Yeah,
is,
so over the time frame, we could paint all of the roadways in Pelican Preserve almost 3 times, and do the thermoplastic once for 10,
Okay.
for 10
so
years.
Dean, would it make sense, and I'll ask this one question and then shut up. Would it make sense
This is,
to,
Randy, you're being recorded, so.
well, I probably shouldn't say that, should I? What I was curious about is it with thermoplastic, it's more expensive when we can could we do it in sections, one each year for 3 years?
Keep it going.
As opposed to all at one time and kind of spread it out?
I think that we
Does
could.
make more sense, because I know if we try to paint and we do one section, by the time the third one's done, the other is going to be faded
Yeah.
again.
Just put it on some kind of cycle.
One of the things that they
Could be done,
suggest,
could be a maintenance thing then.
Randy, one of the things that they suggest is that the thermoplastic goes on fresh pavement, clean pavement. So what I would like the committee to think about is, and it would tie into what's the status of the roadway resurfacing, if there is such a thing, program in Pelican Preserve. Until we are resurfacing, I would think we would continue to use paint. When we resurface, we've got a clean slate at that point. It would make sense to me to put thermoplastic down on the new pavement and continue with paint on the older pavement until those other roadways get resurfaced. And that might be out 10 years.
Yeah,
15
that's
years.
every bit of 10 years, Dean.
Yeah.
They're looking for a very small portion of our roads each year. I mean, very small, maybe one community. And that community may not even have painted stripes.
So yeah, if you're talking neighborhoods, then there's very little pavement markings in the neighborhoods.
Correct.
I'm thinking more of the boulevards. Those roads take a lot more traffic,
Absolutely.
and probably will be in need of resurfacing sooner rather than later.
Dean, this is Carol Pancock. I live on Avila, and Avila just had its road done. And the thermoplastic restriping was part of the contract when the CDD let that contract. So
Really?
actually, we're waiting now. I think they said they need to let the pavement cure another month or two before they put down. It's painted right now, but before the thermoplastic goes down, it's part of the contract. So
Really?
I think that will be, the neighborhoods will be taken care of as their streets come due. Again, I think you're just talking about the main boulevards right now.
What do you have? Just curious, because I live in Matarita. Randy and I are in Matarita, and we don't have center line down Matarita. We have crosswalks, a few crosswalks, but we don't have center line. But we do have stop bars at the intersections with, where there are stop signs. But
There are 3
what-
stop signs on
Okay.
in interior, not at the monuments. We're not talking about the big white ones across by the monument, but within Avila itself, there are 3 stop signs. Those are the markings that will have that stuff.
But
The expensive stuff put down.
But not center line, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No,
So
there are-
there's not a lot of pavement markings in the communities that I, in the neighborhoods that I recall. Maybe there are some have more than others, but the price that we've gotten from these 3 vendors does not include any neighborhoods. It includes Cypress Grove Drive from Pelican Preserve Boulevard to the roundabout at Prado. It includes Pelican tree line, Pelican Preserve Boulevard from tree line to and including the intersection at Veneto, and then from Veneto to the end, to the roundabout at the end by Palazzo, I think.
Yeah.
That's the extent of the pricing. It's not, doesn't go into the neighborhoods. So we're only talking about the boulevards, basically.
And I would suggest it's going to be a while before those streets are repaved.
And let me confirm with what Dean's saying is that all 3 of the asphalt vendors or contractors, all of them said that until your roads are repaved, painting is the way to go, not to put thermoplastic on older pavement. It lasts a lot longer on newly paved roads, and you get a better effect from it. The other question I have is, I know that we talked about the golf carts and the bicycle lanes, that was a proposal for re-permitting. So is that something that we'll need to go get a revised quote so that we have bicycle stamps along that multi-purpose lane?
Did Laura tell you where we're at with that?
Laura, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, or do you want me to?
I don't know if Laura's here.
Is Laura on?
Yeah, she did join it. I saw her name.
Laura.
Oh, there she is.
Here's the situation. At the last PPAC meeting, this was approved to make that a bike lane designation. And so Laura, immediately after that meeting, sent a task authorization, which means either a work order or a quote, to Tetra Tech
Oh, gotcha.
to come back to us about that.
Okay.
So,
To put the chevrons in there,
pardon?
to put the bicycle chevrons in.
Yes. And so, of course, that has to be an engineering drawing and permit from the city to proceed with that. But frankly, I was a little surprised that moved that quickly, but did you have to vote on it, Bob?
We had it at one time and then they took them out.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got a permit, they may have just done it.
Well, the old information I've seen, as far as some of the emails, was that the Board of Supervisors at Gateway said you overstepped your bounds, you have to take those out.
That is correct, and that was at the impetus of one supervisor. Yes.
Okay.
Bill Guy didn't want it for whatever reason, and then killed it.
So now it seems like we have a kind of a consensus that it makes sense to do that finally, especially since we're getting these.
We don't know,
these
but I would
faster.
expect the board is gonna do what PPAC wanted.
Okay, so
Support.
did you guys vote on it? Did it
Not
come
yet.
up? Not yet. Okay,
But the district is taking a view that they don't want to be in golf cart regulation at all.
I know they don't, and neither does the community association,
Correct.
but I won't let them get away with changing that, because what is the workload once we get, if we were to get it done? There's no workload for the district. It's not like they have to do permitting, or, I mean, it's sell permits for golf carts or register. There really isn't anything they have to do.
I can look at both sides of it. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. But if we are adhering to Florida law, why make it more complicated than it needs to be?
I get it, I'm just not gonna let either side skirt the issue
And
of
both are trying to-
responsibility, because then nobody
Because
will.
administratively on our side, it's an enormous task to do the inspections and put the stickers on. I
Right.
mean, it's a nonstop flow of traffic from January all the way through till now. They're still registering. And it's just a constant in the
Yeah.
office and running out and doing
And
inspections.
it's worthy of a conversation of whether that really provides a benefit or not.
Sure.
I mean,
Jennifer, can I just respond to the question?
Yes.
Was if we're going to convert those shoulder lanes to bike lanes or whatever, do we need to get additional proposals? All these companies are in the business of doing pavement markings.
Sure.
And, when the decision finally gets made to put down the stencils for the bicycle lanes, all it is, it is a stencil and a spray gun to
Sure.
spray the pavement, spray the markings down it. Yeah, and maybe it's an extra work item, but you don't have to go back out with bids or anything like that.
So we could just do it as a change order.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
All right.
Yep. So my suggestion would be to go with DG pavement, and the reason being is that they stipulated that they were going to include the glass beads in the paint for better reflectivity, FDOT approved traffic paint. The others did not specify that, although I had asked for that. The prices are very, very similar, but this firm specified that they were going to include the glass beads, and I would suggest that we go with that, make that recommendation to PPAC, and we either do it all at once, or we do it in two phases, half, 14,556 now and 24,615 later in another year. But together it's 39,000. We can't do the separate price that they added on the missing crosswalk lines and stop bars, because we'd have to go back to the city to get approval for that first. But we can maintain what we've got, 14,000 and 24,000.
I've worked with DG Pavement for 10 condo buildings to redo the whole pavement parking area, including like stenciling all the numbers for 400 units. They were really, really great to work with. I'm just, throwing that out there. Very amiable, wanting to please, wanting to make sure the job was done correctly the first time. So that was a good choice.
it's worth a lot.
So do we make a motion?
Their pricing may not still be valid because they said it's good for 30 days, but I would imagine that it's pretty close to being valid.
Yeah, I can call Ken.
But we'd have to get the approval.
27,000 or 30,000.
Yeah, that would probably, well, it's 40,541, so maybe a do not exceed of 45,000 maybe. Yeah, that probably makes sense.
Okay, that's something we need to vote on?
Yes.
Yes, okay, would somebody make a motion, please?
Go ahead, Don, go ahead.
I'll make the motion, we accept the proposal on the $43,000 for the markers.
40,
With
Correct.
not to exceed
Not to exceed
45,
Yes.
to include the bicycle Okay,
Not to exceed 45?
I second
to
Danny.
include the bicycle, right? I think we need to add that in there. or-
No, I think we talked about that being a change order.
That's a change order, okay.
That can be painted.
I thought that was going to be.
Yeah, that wouldn't.
As a change order, okay, that's fine. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, that's passed. Next on the discussion, Mr. Bickle, sir. Fort Myers Police Department Traffic Enforcement?
Traffic enforcement, Fort Myers, I haven't seen
Not
any
received anything.
invoices.
I turned all the paperwork over and I've not heard a word from anybody, never got any stats from anybody.
This is Danny, also
Okay.
same question, I have the same answer, no response, and the guards have not had any, the access controllers have not had any increase or response by either Lee County or Fort Myers Police Department at this time. I'm following up with the
Okay.
chief at this time.
Okay, terrific.
So Lee County is not jumping at the chance?
Not yet. They don't, they still
One
have
time
that
I thought they,
interagency
Yeah,
issue,
yeah.
and I'm actually I'm trying to set up a meeting with Carmine.
Okay.
Being a fellow New Yorker, I can get a little more access. So,
Yeah, because the impression that Lee County gave us is
they want to come in, but they don't want to step on Fort Myers.
Well, I understand-
toes,
I understand that
obviously.
entirely.
And I said, I don't care about that. I've been in the same situation back in New York, and we don't care. So either they to come in, if they don't want to come in, that we.
Then
invite
just step
you.
out of the way and let us go.
And I got the new quote, and it's $70 an hour, so going up to 90 for Fort Myers, so.
okay.
And Lee County 70?
It
Fort Myers
was
County?
70, yeah.
I know Mark Thompson with Weiser said that many times they don't even come through the gate because they have the
printer,
RFID,
yeah.
yeah. So they're literally just coming into the community without stopping at the gatehouse. So I don't know if there's any way around that, but typically I just received the invoice that they were here for traffic
And
control.
actually,
I
looking
mentioned
at
that
the
in
stat
past. That's
sheets.
always been on the paperwork I sent up to Fort Myers PD. Steve Gruber was in charge of the overtime enforcement. And they've always in the past have followed that procedure. It's, the breakdown in the past seems to be at the guardhouse where the paperwork just sits. But I don't think anybody showed up in 3 months now.
Yeah.
There is no supervisory oversight or any follow-up with anything that goes on that the access control officers get and where it goes to from there. And looking at the previous sheets, the activity has been so low. In some case, some of the responders, they don't do too much other than be here, and the variance in the violations is, well, not something that I would accept in law
The
enforcement.
district has a system in place. I won't opine on whether it's good or bad, but when Lee County comes into the district roads over in Gateway, they file a report that I was here on this day. Generally, it doesn't say much. I rode around for 2 hours, or I went to the soccer field, or I went to this. But at least they're getting a recognition that Lee County did come into the community.
We've always got that from Fort Myers.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Oh, we
developed
did
a
get it from Fort Myers?
statistical sheet
Okay.
that we've been using for years with them. It's just that the officers do not wish. Honest, Fort Myers PD does not enforce traffic laws.
No, they don't want to have
You
to
see
go to
that
court.
throughout the whole county, wherever their jurisdiction is within the county. They don't do anything. So they're just not geared for that. Traffic means nothing to them.
And, we have to be sensitive to the fact that if they write a ticket, then they got to go to court. And apparently that's on their own time.
That's their job. I ran
understand.
agencies,
I
I ran
understand.
several agencies, and my officers from all the agencies that worked any of my projects went to court and they did the job. It's just no supervision. It's a total lack of supervision.
The last time they were here was January 23rd,
That's right.
and 95% of it, 95% of the warnings, stop signs. Now, stop sign's a stop sign. Either you went through it or you didn't go through it. You didn't stop a person from going through a stop sign because you wanted to talk to them or look at their car. Stop sign is a stop sign. So, speed is not a big issue, but the stop signs were the biggest ones, and that's why we wanted them here.
From their perspective, yes.
Yes.
The
So,
other part of that, on the speed, there's only a couple, 3 vehicles I think Fort Myers has that has radar in their vehicles. The rest of them don't. So the only way they can actually enforce if they have a certified speedometer that's been tested, then they could do pacing. But that's not that productive in here. But they can enforce the disobeying stop signs and those type of violations.
Okay, so
that's
what can we do to move this forward? Anything at all? Or
This
we
is
just tell
Danny
them-
again. I'm going to follow up with Fort Myers one more time and see if they want to opt out. And then I'm going to proceed with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. So,
I've done that in the past, and I've also contacted Sanibel PD, who has jurisdiction in here. I've contacted Florida Highway Patrol, who has jurisdiction, except for municipal ordinances. They can write any state citations in here, stop signs and things like that. And all the other agencies. And they've all told me that if they didn't have that cooperative agreement, we'd be interested. Cape Coral says, we'd love to come in, but without then get the overtime for our office.
Okay, if we need help from city council, we can get a hold of Darla Bond.
yes.
That's where you need it. It's a political issue.
If it comes
It
to
needs
that,
to be
then we'll
addressed
just,
with the chief.
we'll incorporate Carol Brokey's good offices, get the alliance behind it, and go to the city and put a little leverage on it.
I will follow up. This is Danny. I'll follow up in the next week or so with the Fort Myers Police Department and proceeding with Lee County, and then we'll take it
I'm
from
okay
there.
if we
Okay.
go and do it, but
Thanks,
just don't.
Dan.
Daniel, have you met or talked with the community officer from the sheriff's department?
And that's the Sheriff's Office. No, I have the lieutenant's name.
Do you still have the information
sure
on that
do.
fellow?
Yeah, there was a gentleman that came in, community liaison, and he gave me a business card. I still got it.
Yes.
Yes.
Tall black guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It needs to go to the sheriff if you want that. Because I've spoken to everybody over there in Lee County Sheriff Department. They can't do anything unless the blessing is given by the sheriff.
Yep.
That's
I
where.
will handle that
So-
personally.
I asked him specifically at a president of council meeting if they would be interested. And he seemed
He
to
said yes.
indicate that they'd be willing to talk about it. And he claims he has the ear of Sheriff Marcino.
I personally know he does. He
Okay,
definitely does. I was with them in a meeting.
It's amazing how difficult this is getting done.
It is. Because they don't, again, because of they don't want to cross the issue.
Yeah.
It's not we all want, we just gotta make it happen.
Mess with those.
I'll get it to work, one
Thanks,
way or the
John.
other. Or I'll put the sirens back in my car and I'll make it stop. That'll solve the whole problem.
And we can get a status at our next meeting?
Yes,
Fantastic.
take care of it.
All right, last thing on the agenda is continued discussion of priority projects, which we started earlier. Is there anything else that we need to discuss?
I need to just give you an update on traffic signage and the globes from hurricane damage. I have been harassing the two vendors weekly. I finally got Matt Sprong with Lycan Sign Tech to come out. He and I drove him around the community. We identified, we literally started from the top of the spreadsheet and worked our way through just so he had an understanding of what his techs had already done out here. So we identified anything that had not been done, quite a bit out in Prado still, mostly street signs, but we do have some leading stop signs. So he has identified all of those areas and he's went back to the shop and found some of the signs that were pulled in their yard, I guess graveyard, if you will. So he's got that ready to go. So I'm hoping in the next couple weeks, we'll have all those signs put back up and ready to go. West Coast Electric did finish the boring at the intersection of Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Cypress Grove. So they have that. I just got to figure out when they can get that pole installed. And again, harassing them every week. They finally got the globes to work because they were 1/8 of an inch off when the technician they sent out. And as stupid as this sounds, I'm sorry, I'm using a bad word. Because we're on recording.
We're gonna have to strike
Anyways,
that from the
I
minutes,
could say worse anyways, because it's so aggravated, but all it took was a longer bolt for them to switch out the bolts, put a longer bolt in so that it would hold that globe in place. And their previous
And that was the hill they
electrician,
couldn't get over.
the electrician they sent out in the original couldn't figure that out. But anyway, so Ryan was able to get everything on Pelican Preserve Boulevard done, but then we still have Cypress Grove, Prado, and I think 8 globes out on Tree Line. So I sent an email again to West Coast last week and said where you are at with that. I know they did some boring out at the intersection of Tree Line. I think they're trying to get some of that repair, some of the street lights out there back online. But yep, we're harassing them every week, so hopefully we can get.
How does this differ, or maybe it doesn't, the neighborhood globes that are missing, street lights?
So most of the with the exception of Palazzo, everything else is FPL. So FPL, Laura was sent out an email to them and they said they were working their way through the communities. They've got subcontractors that are helping them at this
When I
point.
reconciled my own street, I thought it was already on the list.
Yeah.
I found out it wasn't.
Oh,
There
no.
was one in 9872, I think, Breno.
Yeah.
That's what made me pause and think. I
Sure.
wonder if we have others. But
Yep.
that pole was just sheared.
Yep. And I've
And I've
added
been
that
sitting here thinking
in.
Since Ian, that it was going to be done. I think I sent you.
Yeah. So there is FPL has a whole street light identification website where you can go in and plug in, I think it's like a 10-digit number on the street pole, and you can put that in for service. So Castle, from what I understood, initially did that, but I think they must have missed that one pole on Breno.
Well, some other neighborhood, I don't remember who it was, is what prompted me to look to see if we were there.
Yeah, Margarita's got quite a few
When I
that are
got
down
one,
in
I
there
said, "Oh,
too, in
I
your
wonder if we're
neighborhood.
on it." And
Yeah.
we weren't.
Interesting.
So, but from a big picture, you've got a list of all the signs and we're making progress
Yep.
and all the.
Well,
streetlights.
I don't know about FPL. Laura, I was trying to get somebody to help me from FPL because I even
Good luck with
contacted
that.
Jamie Young, who is in charge of the whole streetlight conversion program. So I even reached out to Jamie and never heard back from him either.
Can you follow up with Laura? Is Laura on the line?
Yes, she
Yeah,
is.
Laura's, I guess. So just the status on those lights.
Really quick,
Can she comment on, Laura, can you comment on FPL?
I don't have anything to add besides what the update was already given by John.
yeah, so that she sent the email. They're just working with their subcontractors in all of these communities right now. Can I ask the question about whether we're considering doing a streetlight conversion in here with FPL? Because that is a really phenomenal program. Because they will take over, you can do decorative globes, so it would look similar to what we already have, and then their
At the present
LED.
time, the district is looking only within the confines
Yeah,
of
that-
the district.
that-
Just a gateway. Okay.
But I asked
Yeah,
them
we
to
get-
include us. I
Okay,
don't
Community
know
association.
if that is going to happen. Laura, can you comment on that?
Sorry, I'm only half listening, but I was paying attention for this. We are looking at doing something with Pelican. I mean, Pelican would have to request it, but if we did, it would be a phase 2. So we want to get the gateway part done first, and then if we want to do Pelican, that would be a second, because the gateway part's already rolling.
okay,
So Pelican would be like a phase 2.
okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
It's basically just like getting a brand new car with the lease being the same price. I mean, you get a brand new globe and it's LED, so you save electricity, but at the same time, they take over all the maintenance on it. So now you don't have the fighting with trying to get a third-party contractor out here to change globes. FPL will take on all the maintenance.
Well, it ain't cheap, but
It isn't,
is-
but
it
it's
is
almost like a
efficient.
even, yeah.
You got one person instead of, it's FPL, it's
Yeah.
West Coast, it's.
And the money that you save in your electricity going to LED, it's almost the same cost. It doesn't really save any money, but it's pretty much a break even, but it's a good program.
Okay,
All right, that's all I have.
okay, terrific.
I had one other question, direct to Laura. Remember Keith was keeping in contact with the gas company as far as a hookup for our
Right.
emergency generator at the gatehouse? Do you know anything more about that?
I haven't poked them recently, but I'll do that right now.
I
And I'll
think
loop Andrew
Chelsea-
in since he's our new public works director, so he can follow up with him going forward.
I think Chelsea and Dean and I talked about that when we were out at the intersection of Pelican and Cypress about it, for the boring. I do have one more thing too. Keith, before he left, I had brought to his attention the bridge going over towards Palazzo off of Pelican Preserve. And I may have to have, I guess is it Andrew is our new public works director. I'll send him the images, but we have some water seeping through that bridge, so we may have to have someone take a look at that.
Yeah, just
I
this
think
is
you're
Andy.
also going to verify that that was a gateway asset. I mean, intuitively, it makes sense if it's part of the road, but. Am I?
The bridges are ours. They are ours,
Okay,
the districts.
thank you.
Yeah, this is Andrew. If you have any information, just send it my way.
Okay, Andrew, I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
And did you say you
I
got
have a question.
That was the
That
water.
was it, okay.
Dean has a question.
I'm sorry,
So then
yes.
so then the gateway engineer should be looking at that, right?
Yeah. Mhm. And I'll send it to Andrew, so he's
So I'd be
aware.
Tetra Tech.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still have
You can go ahead,
the
Dean.
email with
Yeah.
the pictures of the
Mhm.
leaking?
Yeah, that's from Keith.
Yeah, we actually got the generator installed,
Mhm,
the car got
maybe.
pretty fast, it was.
Maybe.
But it's
Yeah, maybe.
glacial to get the gas line.
Oh,
hooked
it's
up.
terrible.
And the line's right there, the
I know.
line goes right up,
Mhm.
but we gotta get it ordered.
We need it before hurricane season,
Yeah,
or
it's coming
clock's
very soon.
ticking.
June 1st, June 1st.
Dean, did you have a question?
I do, please. I don't know, several months ago, looked at the gatehouse and the approach to the gatehouse from tree line, about the need to improve lighting so that it looks like the place is open for business. Um, Is that included on the third row down? Is that gatehouse, or is that the landscape, or is it both?
All right, hold on, let me take a look. On the capital enhancement worksheet?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, what item, Dean?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
I
one.
think we're talking about the gate, let's see, tree line, Pelican Preserve Boulevard prior to the gatehouse. So I think this is just the monument on the west side of Pelican Preserve tree line when you're coming in. So our main basically sign and monument.
LED uplighting.
So we wanted to try to enhance the lighting up there prior to seeing if we had to redo the whole monument or not. But we do have, Jennifer and I did add some motion sensor lights.
Yeah,
So the
that's for
second
the
to last one under
sidewalks.
house lighting.
Yeah.
So we could put some motion sensor lights, so at least
At night.
yeah, at night they'll turn on if someone's walking on the sidewalks to alert.
But on an earlier version of a priority list, this is not it. Uh, Jennifer, one that you had developed, a spreadsheet that you had developed, was an item that included improving the lighting at the gatehouse.
Yeah, I know exactly which one you mean. I don't have my list with me that said this particular item on our old list went to this line item on the new list. So I have to go back and take a look at that. But I will.
Okay. So I can put additional lighting needed, and we can look at adding some.
Okay.
What was suggested anyway from meeting with a lighting vendor that John Phillips, I think his name is?
John Phillips.
Yeah, John Phillips and Keith had put me in touch with was possibility of adding bollards that add lighting to the median that at the gatehouse itself, the one that separates inbound and outbound traffic. Maybe
Okay.
five or six bollards there, 5 or 6 bollards around the circular island at the tree that's out there, the single tree, just to try to define the edges of the roadway. Because coming in, particularly at night, unless your headlights happen to hit something lighted up, the place is dark.
Yeah.
And it really needs improvement.
So that tree has a ribbon around it, that oak tree and that little circle. Do you know if Mark Eversman is planning on removing that for some reason? Is it diseased? Because it's got a big old pink ribbon around it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, I need to get with him.
Dean, when you received that recommendation and cost estimate,
Yeah.
Was all that lighting done that was actually on the gatehouse? Was it confined to what would be a district asset? Everything
that we're talking about here would be a district asset. Yeah, it's the roadway. it's the roadway and the gatehouse. So, and I had suggested that there be some wall pack units installed on the gatehouse itself to cast light down on the gatehouse. So again, so that it shows up that there's something going on here. There are people inside. It's pretty sad if you're coming in at night.
Okay,
You don't notice it during the daytime, obviously, but nighttime
Sure.
is pretty bad.
So you recommend that it be a separate line item on the project list?
It could be. I had some information. I don't know if that $30,000 number could include some of the uplighting. I don't know.
no,
I
that
thought
30,000 is just for the monument at the intersection of tree lines. So what we would want to do is maybe add on to the second to last one called gatehouse
Right.
lighting.
Yeah, okay.
I would prefer to see that because anything to do that's close to the monuments, I would try to get pushed over to the landscape
Right.
budget.
Yeah,
Yeah, particularly things like uplighting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what, yeah,
okay.
that's kind of what
Does
Mark
that
and I.
make sense?
See if I have some
I
of that
think
list.
Mark and I talking about the fact that, yes, the monuments are very sad, but at the same time, trying to save money, let's see if we can spruce them up with as minimal cost. And then we can make a decision going forward. But I think when you're talking those monuments, you need a committee. I mean, you can't just put one or two people and say, oh, we're going to rip it down and this is what we're going to give you.
You can get a design study,
You have to get a design study, you have
get a
to,
professional.
yeah. And don't have 8 women on the committee because it'll take you 3 years to get it, sorry.
Just picking out the paint.
Oh, this is being
Just picking out the
recorded,
paint took me 2 years for a
This is being recorded.
clubhouse.
Randy, it's spreading.
But
No,
don't beat her on.
Randy,
Stop what
it's
you say.
spreading. You're-
I'm just being
you're
honest.
candor.
It took me 2 years to get a paint color to figure out what we're gonna put in our social room, because we had 8 women on the committee.
But
Okay,
seriously,
well, let's say
PPAC,
people in general, I mean, just say
PPAC
people.
did authorize
I'm not touching that one.
2
Sorry,
years ago,
I'm
or
making a
year and half
joke.
ago,
Yeah,
to get a professional landscape designer to give us some
Yeah.
considerations for the front. Not for tree line and colonial,
Right,
but for Pelican Reserve and tree line.
entrance, yeah.
But that really hasn't gone anywhere, only because Mark has been launching his committee. But I
Sure,
would expect in the next year, they'll probably be able to embrace that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But let's see what we can do to kind of spruce it up in the meantime, right? All right. That's all I-
all right, thank you very much. Anything
Now,
else?
the actual budget.
Yeah.
The actual budget for next year for safety and security. Are you going to do that right now, or is? he
I
gonna do it?
got some numbers, but I was gonna send it out to Randy and Dean and I guess the rest of the committee to look at on there, and then they can, it's the whole budget though. I mean, it's not just safety and security, it's everything we've got on there. So there's pest control,
Oh, okay.
Because the incorporation.
there's repair and maintenance at the gatehouse.
Yeah.
Will you highlight what specific items, line items are you're
Sure.
envisioning for safety and security?
Real quickly, Dean, they would be things like contractual services, which is wiser.
Yep.
Gatehouse, which is utilities, maintenance, repair, gate tech, and supplies. And I know Laura has a comment about supplies. But then we have sidewalk and road repair. Then we got monument sign painting, and I don't know why that's in here, right now it's somewhere. Then streetlight repair and maintenance. Cart lease and fuel, and we have one of those for landscaping for security. So that's something, that's an opportunity. Traffic signs, repair and maintenance. Whatever work group projects that you guys would decide that you want to take on. Pressure cleaning, and then the GIS website. Because we do have a GIS website for safety and security, which would have all of the, we don't have it yet, but we're going to have it. Where all the signs would be on there, stop signs and speed signs and all of the light poles. So that is a budget number, and it comes to, I believe this current year, we're spending $706,000 for the year we're in. And Jen, you have been managing that. Does that sound? Oh, except for the 397,000 for wiser, you're not doing that. Excuse me.
So the budget that I've got for O&M is
That sounds about
$413,961.
right, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question on this budget. I don't see anything here for cameras or any upgrades or repairs or maintenance on that. Is that included?
Well,
in
but
one of these?
that's where you have.
A gatehouse
work group
repair.
projects.
Yeah, gatehouse repair and,
Okay, that's where you have that discretion to move it around, okay, what projects you want. And if it's not enough money, go to feedback and say, you know, we need more or whatever.
Okay. Anything else, folks?
can I
No,
just
yes.
go real quick? I just want to define, because we're having an issue with supplies at the gatehouse. So under
pays for what?
under the contract for Wiser, it says work under this, so we're looking at 3.1 under general description. It says work under this section includes furnishing all labor, supplies, equipment, and materials and performing all operations in connection with the controlled access and community security. So because I know we're trying to figure out, when we talk supplies, or it's very broad. It doesn't say cleaning supplies. It doesn't say toilet paper.
All supplies.
It just says, but it says all labor, supplies, equipment, and materials in performing all operations in connection with the controlled access and community security.
I read that to be everything.
That's,
So Laura, Leroy, would you like to comment on that?
I was not at my desk. I'm sorry, I had to step away for a minute. I just sat back down.
So I'm just trying to figure out when we're talking supplies.
Gatehouse.
Under gatehouse supplies, because right now I'm buying their toilet paper and the floor cleaners and all of that. And office if they need sticky notes and paper clips and everything else. So under your section 3, under attachment A on the contract, it's the third paragraph under 3.1. Just says work under this section includes furnishing all labor, supplies, equipment, and materials, and performing all operation in connection with the controlled access and community security. So to me, that means that any, like if they needed a new printer for the passes, then that's under them. If their monitor went down, that would be under them. But it doesn't define supplies in the fact of toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning.
I think I agree with what you said. My interpretation would be like any of their operating supplies for like the sticky notes, the paper, any of that stuff would be on them. But since it's our gatehouse, I guess cleaning supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, we've historically, it's not really called out. That's probably something we should address as we're moving forward with this. So
Okay.
Rain, take a note when the contract comes up. But I guess, I don't know, how much do you spend on toilet paper and paper towels?
I mean, it's not exorbitant. I probably need to sit down when things quiet down and figure out though, if we're better off hiring someone like JanPro, or do we just?
Well, I think it says in their orders that they're responsible for keeping it clean.
It does. So if you look at the Wiser section, they're supposed to, an hour before their shift ends, they're supposed to clean the toilets.
Historically, we spent about $4,000 a year on that.
Did we get, in the last few months, did we get a bill for a new computer?
We got something
Wasn't that-
after, I think it was something happened like in July. I did not pay it.
No, I think that Mark Thompson said that Tim had to pay, that Wiser had to pay for that.
That's
They
what I
needed
told
to
them. I told them that because we pay them. They charge us for equipment. So like, yeah, we're not buying that. And I didn't pay it. It was like $5,000 or something they wanted us to pay, 5 or 7. And I
Yeah.
told them we were not going to pay it. I said that was their responsibility.
Real nice button.
Yeah, and because their printer is down too, to issue the guest passes coming in, and they've been trying to get with Tim to get a new printer. I even went out there and tried to troubleshoot it myself, by hooking it up to another monitor and going that route, but,
What's a printer, $100?
well, it's a special
printer.
thermal
Oh,
printer.
But I can show you a guest pass from across the way, and everything we need to do
Yeah,
is here.
but that doesn't run on the Dwelling Live.
I know.
That's checkpoint right
Yeah,
there.
I know,
That's,
But there's gotta be.
Oh.
a
Statewide
system out
security.
there, But, yeah.
we don't want to go that
But
way.
if I may, this is
Sorry.
Danny again, if I may, in reading and going over the contract, the wiser information, it says that the equipment in the gatehouse is client-owned. So we need to identify what is client-owned. The client is Gateway District, correct?
Correct.
So why is the buying equipment when they're supposed to be utilizing client-owned proprietary equipment?
That's a good point.
And it's clearly indicated in the contract. The only thing Wiser is responsible for is damage caused by any of their employees to any of the equipment.
See, I read that different. I read that as the client-owned software, not equipment.
I believe it says equipment and software, but I'd have to double check that.
Well, I don't know that this is in dispute. I mean,
No, it's not.
No.
It's
But
just something
when
that
is
needs to be addressed in the next contract.
Yeah.
Clarification.
When is the contract
Because this
expire?
contract is.
Say it at the top.
September 2024. So we still have a whole nother year. So that'll give us some time to review that whole contract. Well, a year and a half, actually.
And then we have to break out KPCA items,
Yeah.
like monitoring of the park.
Oh, sure.
And the town side.
All right. One last call for anything else to discuss today. All right, would somebody like to make a motion? Oh, set agenda for next meeting. Any additional items that we haven't already discussed today that we need to add on to the agenda for next time? Okay, be sure to send in your agenda request forms into Georgia so we can get all your individual items out on the agenda, please. All right, do I have a motion to, oh, yes.
Before we do, please, just please remind everyone to include the date of the next meeting on your calendars. I'm concerned that we're not going to have a quorum, and I'm not sure how we got a quorum today.
I thought we changed the date.
The 30th, it was a Monday after the holiday, the Tuesday after the
It's
holiday.
Yeah.
Tuesday, right. So the date has been changed, but I want you to make sure that you have that on your calendars because, you know, we don't want to show up for a meeting and not have a quorum. That's all.
Okay.
And it's, you know, we can't communicate, can't send a note around to remind people to come to the meeting tomorrow.
Right. Does anyone, it looks like everybody's staring at their phones. Anyone have a problem with Tuesday, the 30th at 10 a.m.?
Not I.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing that up, Dean.
The same room?
Yep. We've got this from now on. Janine's got it.
Oh,
We
wonderful.
finally got a rotating.
Okay. Now, is there a motion to adjourn?
This is Danny, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, then we adjourn at 11:34. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.